Hi everyone, welcome to part 8 of my Helm's Deep toy box level. Now I promised that this was going to be the last clip, but when I edited all the sections together, it was over an hour and a half long, so I've had to tune it up and I thought I'd break it down into smaller sections. So apologies, but this happens to be clip 8. There is going to be clip 9, which is then the whole thing finished, and then we'll have the final clip where we review the entire level, if I can get my teeth in. So what you'll see here is I've got the level started off and the enemies now advancing. I've got all the normal sections set up. Now the plan for this clip is to show you how we get the enemy to trigger the wall explosion. Now the very first clip was the enemy blowing up the wall, and we press a button and the wall blows up. So what I want to show you here is how do we get the enemy to trigger that explosion. So the explosion's all prepared, all we've got to get them to do is to trigger it. And I had a number of ideas to do with this, and one of them was to have a Kamikaze Soldier, and I mentioned in the clips that that was the plan. A Kamikaze Soldier, when they run through, is going to blow it up. But as you'll see with the enemy attacking and as the level evolved, it got too tricky to work out when to set that going. And I was a bit stumped on how to use it, and then I wanted to make sure there was enough enemies within the base. And when I played through the whole level, when I killed the enemies, it took too long for the enemies to reappear. So I was thinking, okay, what I want to do is I actually want more enemies to distract me. I want more enemies in the base once we get through. So I need those siege towers to actually be a key part of the game. And as I started off, these were just a temporary measure. And what I'm going to do here is the siege towers are what actually trigger the wall explosion. When those siege towers reach the wall, yeah, that is when the explosion will occur. Now the problem we've got is that the player can actually stop the siege towers. Those orbs that you see appearing, if we shoot 5 of them, the siege tower bursts into fire and will stay stationary. So I wanted somehow to then the enemy to rebuild and reuse a siege tower and chuck another one at it. So as you'll see here now is that siege tower is now burst into flames. Now what I've done here is we've set a timer that will only burn for so long, because what I was thinking was that these siege towers are actually made out of wood. So after a while, once we have them on fire, they should dissolve to nothing. That was my logic, yeah, that's what I was thinking through. So it's disappeared, it's gone. So what they have to do is they have to get another siege tower. So my job here is to try and stop these orbs, get these orbs going, shoot them all as many as we can. Have I got 5? I need one more on this one, and then we've got it. And then after 20 seconds, see all the towers now on fire, they will now get reset after a certain time limit and go back. Now in the meantime I've still got the enemies advancing, and another thing I'll also mention is that the enemies, the battle droids, stood at the bottom of the ground. They weren't too good. I didn't like the battle droids, so I changed the battle droids to the BX commandos, because these guys jump up. They actually jump up over the wall, and again will help with the distraction. As you saw while I was talking through those elements, you saw the battle droids jumping up and trying to attack me. So I've got more enemies again, and if you quickly notice back there, another siege towers appear. So we've got some that are stuck down here. So some battle droids worked, but it was the commandos that I found I needed them to jump up, otherwise they just hang down there at the bottom. So get rid of him. Right, so now we've got the siege towers moving forward again, and also obviously the night and day, so it's now going dark. So again, here you see more battle droids appearing. They're now appearing with the siege towers as they all march through, and we have the same option again. So it keeps that wave coming through, and if we stop that, then that changes the level. But at the same time, those battle droids are wanted to come over. So you'll notice I've also put some walls for them to climb up, so they will jump up over the wall and attack the base, distracting me away from the siege towers. So at some point those siege towers will always get through, and if I'm not constantly fighting them, I'm going to have to I'll be distracted enough that they will finally break the damage to the screen, and you'll see now the battle droids are all charging through and trying to get through to the system. And now we've got larger boys. So here they're jumping up, and we've got some of them jumping over, which is all good. And they'll fire, which is quite good on the screen. So they're coming over the castle, distracting me. Yeah, and I've got more this time. So in the first wave there's a couple, but there's even more coming across. And this is now going to make it harder for me to shoot those orbs, and you'll notice now I've missed the 5 orbs in this particular level. So you'll see that it's all coming quite good. But as I say, I tried to fit this all into one clip, and then it was just like it was being rushed. So I thought I'd take my time, show you this section, and just show you how we adjust this logic so these siege towers can continually repeat. Another thing I'm just pointing out here, I created this little step tower as well, just in the castle, and the reason for that was, when the enemies appeared over the wall, they wouldn't run down, they wouldn't come down and attack the base, they would stay at the top there, so I had to create a big enough path for them to crawl down, and you'll see that does actually have an effect. But when that tower finally hits the wall, it will explode, and this is the one thing that tends to put most people off with their toy boxes, that you start creating it, and as you play it back, you realise certain things don't work, and you have to tune it, and sometimes you put so many hours in it, you go, oh, and you give up. So there's no problem giving up. It's always good to come back to it, review it, and the only probably reason why I'm finishing this off is because I promised the clip to you guys and I wanted to make sure I got the clip out, so I thought I need to get this finished. You saw the wall explode, and now the enemies are coming through, they're coming down the steps, and they're now attacking my tower. So that's what we're going to show you, that's the logic we're going to show you in this clip. So just a quick review here, an earlier version where we have all our logic still on display. Now obviously I've done this at different stages, so sometimes in between my clip you'll see this all disappear. But what I have done is I've started to move these all down below, hidden out of the way underneath the map. Yeah, so you'll see them here. So this here is the trigger that once our counter gets to a certain number, it will then fire the gate, stop it, so stop the path and set it on fire. Okay, and it will set all those effects to explode on the actual system. That logic gate beforehand is what switches all those off. So when I input that logic gate into there, it resets the counter and turns off all the smoke. Okay, and if we look at the properties of that, there does a reset, and when you do on there, it will then stop all the looping effects. So that's the trigger that actually turns everything back off on the screen. So what we want to do here is we want to look at the counter. Now I'm going to have to do this 3 times for each of the one group, so I'm only going to show you for one path, but you have to do it for all of them. Okay, and it all's based on that counter. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we need to get some logic tools here, but just before I do that, you'll show you here, not those, these are the other gates that I've moved across after each path. And this clip is only going to show you for one of the paths, so you will have to do the same for lane 2 and 3. Okay, so you'll have to do the same thing. So we just need a couple of little items. One of them is a time delay, which is quite straightforward, so get one time delay in there. Okay, and then we need 2 logic gates, and these 2 logic gates are A, to reset the path, and the other one to set the path going again, because we're going to stop the path. So I need 2 separate gates to do this. And what you'll see here is I dabbled around a bit. I think, where do I put the gate? So I wanted to keep it so it's organised in a manner that I can see the 2 gates connected. So in this case I put the 2 gates either side here. Okay, and that logic, by the way, these 3 items is all you need to keep these siege towers in a loop. Okay, so what we do is when target's reached, yeah, so we say when our target is reached, we are going to start our time delay. Can we start that? And we want it to burn for so many periods of seconds. I think I set it to about 20 seconds, I think it was. And my logic there was, like I said, I want it to burn down, and that's it set up on there. So we said, alright, there's 20 seconds. So right, when that delay is complete, can we input a signal into this gate, right? So that will say input a signal into the gate. So when connection is, can we then input a signal back into here? And what we're going to say here is, can we input that, and that will reset my counter, and it will turn off the effects, which is quite nice. Yeah, so that switches all the effects off and switches the flames off of the screen. That goes back to 0, and the smoke's all off, ready for us to do another count with all the orbs again. Right, but we don't have to do it because we've done that in our previous clip. I think in clip 3, I think we did it in. So what we're going to do here is new logic connection on output. We need to reset that path. So we go all the way back to the first channel, and we reset the path. But the problem with the path is the path has been turned off, which is great, which means the siege tower will return back here on the system. So it will return back into that connection. If I connect it up, where is it? Oh, way off. See, it's really weird when you do get it slightly off. There you go. So I'm going to click on there. The first one I get it to do is reset and play. Okay, that switches it all back up, ready to go again. But the path is off, and what I want to do is I want to make sure that the logic does that first. Yeah, now that's done that, yeah, which is great. Yeah, we can send that signal. We're going to do another gate, which means there's a slight delay, so it resets it first. So that's why I needed the second logic gate. So new logic connection on output. Can we input to the second gate? And this second gate will then turn the path back on. but I wanted there to be a delay between the two, so it will do the first logic gate first, send signal to the second one, and then does the other item. So we know the objects have all been moved back, and then the second one will say, can we now switch this particular path back on? Okay, and that siege tower will now restart advancing forward again and repeating the whole process. Now you've got to do that same logic for each of the other two remaining siege towers, but just by adding those three components. And all that does is that will have the siege towers moving on a continued advance if you shoot the orbs. It's only if you shoot all the 9 orbs. And when I say 9 orbs, I mean 5 orbs. Right, so that will keep the siege towers coming across. So when do we know that the siege towers have made it? Well, the siege towers make it when they send up this path, when we get this logic. And when that item reaches up that list, we know that they've hit the tower and the troops have now suddenly appeared. So that we have 3 possible triggers. Okay, but we don't know which one of those we're gonna hold off. We may hold one off constantly. So we have to take the assumption that any one of those 3 can set those items off. Now in the back here we've got my little logic gate, and you'll see that I've hidden all my other tools out the way. So we're just now focused on here. So all the other objects have been hidden out of the way of the screen, because in my previous clip when I recorded all these I actually missed this last section out, so I've had to redo this one again after the event. Okay, now we need again a couple of items for this gate. I need a logic gate to obviously tell us we've done it. I need another logic gate to close it, yeah, and I want a time delay. Okay, because what I'm going to do is when they reach the tower, I want a few seconds before the thing blows up. Yeah, so that's what I basically want. So I'm going to set that to, again, probably either 15 or 20 seconds. What do I do? 15 seconds this time? I think I did 15. Yeah, there you go, 15 seconds. Okay. Right, so that is what the actual item is. So we're going to say, all right, which one of these 3 items are going to... do we not stop the actual item on the screen? So we'll pick the first point. And we say when a siege tower reaches that point, so new logic connection, when the siege tower gets there and the whole bar lifts up and it reaches that section, can we input a signal into that logic gate? Okay, can we input a signal into there? Now each one of those other areas can do the same thing, so we're going to have to set those up because we don't know which of these 3 towers we've done. And just to point out, if you go to I think part 3 of my Helm's Deep level, I showed you how to do the siege towers and how you set the previous paths already up on the system. But what we're going to do is we're going to just input a signal in each 3 of these paths. Now the reason why you need 2 logic gates is that obviously once we blow up the wall, we don't need to blow up the thing again. So I need it to stop. I need the actual thing. So all 3 towers may actually make it, but I just do need it to actually physically stop. Okay, so we're going to move this across. Okay, and we connect that up. So all those input a signal into the first gate. So that's nice and easy. That's done. Right, so then what we do here is, right, so when one signal goes in, can we then do a new logic connection? When input receives on output, can we input into the other logic gate? Okay, we'll input into there, that's that one done. So that logic gate now has got the signal. So the first thing I'm going to do actually here is probably going to want to close the previous gate. So new logic connection, on output, can we close that gate? Which means if the other 2 towers come, it will not reblow the actual item up again. So that will actually stop it. The only downside is I must reset that gate when I restart the level. Okay, but we'll look at that in a moment in the end. So what we can do now here is new logic connection on output, can we start our time delay? So I only need one of them to do it. The time delay starts, and then if we remember from the very first clip, to set the whole explosion off, all I've got to do is close that gate, which will start the chain reaction off, and we'll have the explosions and all the bricks blow up in a particular area. So that's all self-contained, and that's really all the logic we need to do. So we've got that set up on that screen. So we close it, and that's it. That's how items set up. So the only thing we need to do now is that when we restart the level and we reset everything, we must reopen the first gate. Otherwise, the thing won't blow up again. Okay. So these logic gates are all set up and all done on the particular settings, but it's the very first one that we need to reset. All the settings for this gate are self-contained within the actual explosion, which I say I covered in our clip 1. So I'm going to just go down to our other item, so we can say on here, so not that particular one, sorry, but the very first one. If I reopen that gate, we've got it cracked, and that it can be triggered all the way back to the beginning. Now we go back to the beginning. Remember in our logic, none of these gates need to be moved out of the way, by the way, because you don't actually get to see them. So on here we can do new logic connection, so from the actual reset button, so new logic connection, on output, and then when we do a new level, it will set this item. So on output, can we go back and reopen that gate? Everything will get reset, and it will all fix the issues, and that is it. That is how we can get the enemies to explode the castle wall. As I say, you had to have seen the other clips for this to make full sense. I hope you like it. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And the good news is I'm going to post all the remaining clips at the end, so you're not waiting anymore. So they're all going to be uploaded at the same time. So cheers for watching, guys, and I'll get the next clip to you very shortly. Thanks for watching. Cheers.